Saving the galaxy one more time might be something that comes almost second nature if you're part of the Star Trek franchise. For many of the actors involved, it's not the only thing that they've given to the world since 1964. This is not just about world-altering events or how Star Trek saved the universe, named a shuttle, or influenced a generation. But in some instances, it's a much more personal journey that may well have affected just one life among millions, but was just as significant nonetheless. Nor is it purely about public events or stories that attracted great media interest, but ways in which actors from the franchise have carved out a little bit of the galaxy and maybe made it that little bit better. Neither is this limited to just the main cast of the shows through the ages, since there have been recurring and guest actors who have provided just as important a contribution as those named in the main titles. Whether saving a life, protecting others, or standing firm for a cause, there are many that didn't make the cut, but that should not take away from the work that those linked to the franchise do behind the scenes. Indeed, these are only a handful of the endeavours of those who have played a part in the ongoing Star Trek. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with Trek Culture, here with 10 great contributions to humanity by Star Trek actors. Number 10. James Cromwell. Multi-character guest actor James Cromwell has appeared behind many guises within the Star Trek franchise, with his most notable being that of warp drive pioneer Zefram Cochrane. Cromwell's own experiences of the prejudices in the deep south of the US and the pushback from the black community were the initial sparks that led to his activism. Initially, it was more linked to the civil rights movement of the 1960s. However, over the decades, it would expand into other equally prolific areas. A staunch animal activist, Cromwell became vegan while filming his role as Farmer Hoggett in Babe, and has been arrested on several occasions for protests in support of people for the ethical treatment of animals, including notably regarding the treatment of the orca whales at SeaWorld. Cromwell's presence isn't limited to PETA, however, with him protesting against energy companies, including one incident where both he and fellow Trek alumni J.G. Hertzler were arrested and taken to jail. Indeed, PETA would go on to name him their Person of the Year 2022, which might have been cemented thanks to the actor supergluing himself to the counter of a Starbucks in protest over surcharges on plant-based milk. Number 9. George Takei. One of the most prolific activists from the entire Star Trek franchise, George Takei has perhaps become even more well-known around the world thanks to his actions post-franchise. After more openly revealing that he was gay in 2005, Takei now acts for the human rights campaign Coming Out Project, and has toured the US to give talks on his life, including his internment during the Second World War. Takei has been an active member of the Japanese American Citizens League, which in itself has existed since 1929 and continues to work for the civil and human rights of all Americans, lobbying Congress and focusing on important issues primarily in regard to the Asian community. Alongside this, Takei is Chairman Emeritus of the Japanese American National Museum's Board of Trustees, served on the board of Japan-United States Friendship Commission during the Clinton administration, and in recognition of that, was awarded the Order of the Rising Sun Gold Rays Rosette by the Emperor of Japan. His experiences during the war also led to the development of the stage show Allegiance, which had a run on Broadway in 2015 and 2016 after winning several awards in San Diego, and is now currently running in London's West End. Number 8. Susan Oliver. Not an activist or campaigner, the original Green Girl, Susan Oliver, made a huge impact in a life that was tragically cut short at the age of just 58. With an acting career that spanned over 20 years, Oliver became one of the first women to be admitted to the American Film Institute's directing workshop for women, which was followed by helming a short film and then an episode of the super hit series MASH and one from its spin-off series Trapper John MD. Acting and directing may not be the biggest accomplishments that Oliver achieved. After overcoming a fear of flying, she would become one of the first women to fly a single-engine plane across the Atlantic Ocean, and even earned a type rating on jets from Learjet. She would go on to be named Pilot of the Year by the Association of Executive Pilots in 1970, and a year later be inducted into the Federal Aviation Administration's Women's Advisory Committee on Aviation. This committee was placed to provide strategies and recommendations to the Federal Aviation Administration to encourage more women to explore a career in flight. Oliver would gain her final aviation rating in 1978, which was for piloting gliders. Number 7. Leonard Nimoy. Away from the limelight as Mr. Spock, right from the opening seconds of original Star Trek pilot The Cage, Leonard Nimoy wasn't just singing about hobbits. Actually, during his time on the 3 seasons of Star Trek, he advocated for equal pay for Nichelle Nichols, seeing her contribution to the show just as impactful, if not more, as anyone else in the co-starring cast. Aside from numerous writing and directing credits, Nimoy was a prolific photographer and would win several awards for his work. However, his lasting contribution may still come back to the role of Spock. Originally just a job for 3 years, Nimoy would continue to engage with fans for decades after, returning for the animated series, the movies, and ultimately as the bridge between the Prime and Kelvin universes in 2009's reboot. His role as the logical scientist has inspired generations of Star Trek fans to pursue careers in that area. In 2010, the Space Foundation gave him the Douglas S. Morrow Public Outreach Award for his creation of such a positive role model to millions of viewers around the world, and for inspiring interest in space itself. Number 6. Sir Patrick Stewart. Defeating the Borg and being the arbiter of succession are all in a day's work for Captain, now Admiral Jean-Luc Picard. But away from the red alerts and Riker trombone recitals, Patrick Stewart is an ardent advocate of the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Stewart has been the face of the National Dogfighting Awareness Day in both 2017 and 2018 and continues to advocate for the pit bull breed actively via his social media channels and on TV. In 2021, he was presented with the Pitbull Advocate and Protector Award, reflecting his ongoing commitment to raise awareness around their protection and change public perception. Of course, Trek fans will know that his love of the dogs also crossed over back into the sci-fi franchise, with Picard having his own Pitbull, number 1, at his side at Chateau Picard in Season 1 of Picard. Number 5. Chase Masterson. Darbo girl and then wife of the Grand Nagus aboard Deep Space Nine, Chase Masterson became an intrinsic part of the show's recurring cast from late in its 3rd season as Lita. Yet what many may not know is of her work against bullying. After 5 years of working as a mentor on Homeboy Industries, the largest worldwide gang intervention program, Masterson co-founded the Pop Culture Hero Coalition in 2013. Using evidence-based psychology in combination with heroic characters and stories, it helps to teach social emotional learning and bullying prevention to children and teens. By introducing these principles early, Pop Culture Hero hopes to help reduce troubles and anxieties that could resurface in later life due to what can be devastating early experiences. Masterson herself serves on the advisory board of the United Nations Association and has spoken at numerous influential forums, including the UN itself, UNESCO, Google, the YMCA of the US, and CBS News. Number 4. LeVar Burton. Far from the depths of the USS Enterprise engine room, actor LeVar Burton is also renowned for his work on the long-running children's TV series Reading Rainbow. Originally running from 1983 to 2006, Burton hosted the show for a stunning 21 seasons, which made it the 3rd longest-running kids series in the world after Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Totaling 155 episodes, it received over 200 awards during its run and would found a new love of books in several generations of kids. But Burton, as one of the original executive producers and hosts, would continue to work on Reading Rainbow after its 2006 cancellation, looking to develop an app which would become the number 1 educational app on iTunes within 36 hours, and by 2014 would see over 10 million books downloaded. Furthermore, Burton would raise over $6 million in the same year to revive Reading Rainbow in a bid to help raise literacy levels in the US. While the former Enterprise chief engineer would launch RR Kids soon after with that very goal, lawsuits would lead to a rebranding as LeVar Burton Kids. Its mission continues to this very day. Number 3. Nichelle Nichols. Nichols is as synonymous with black rights as she is with Star Trek, in a story that goes all the way back to the very first season of the show. With a desire to leave because of a lack of screen time, Nichelle's famous meeting with Dr. Martin Luther King changed not only her life, but those of many, many people around the world. Indeed, Whoopi Goldberg tells the story of her seeing Uhura on the bridge of the Enterprise and declaring that there was a black woman in space and she ain't no maid. Of course, many years later, Goldberg would approach the producers of The Next Generation, leading to the creation of Bartender Guinan in a recurring role from its 2nd season onwards, something that would not have happened had it not been for Nichols' role in Star Trek. But Nichols' work didn't stop at her advocacy and promotion of black women on TV. Aside from this, she took part in a promotional film aimed at recruiting women and people of colour to be astronauts. The following class would include the first black American in space, Guy Bluford, and the first American woman in space, Sally Ride. Number 2. James Doohan. Aside from contributing many a life-saving engineering miracle aboard the USS Enterprise, James Doohan's life was perhaps even more of an adventure story than the science fiction world of Star Trek. Part of the D-Day landings, Doohan was involved in the retaking of France in 1944. The loss of his finger on the Normandy beaches, one of 6 shots from friendly fire that hit the actor, led to some creative direction to cover it up on screen. But perhaps the most amazing story is one in which Doohan is credited with saving the life of a Star Trek fan. Doohan recalled receiving a letter from a fan. This letter was a suicide note. Calling her back, the actor invited the girl down to a convention in Indianapolis, and upon meeting, knew how serious it was. Doohan would see the woman at multiple conventions over the next few years before she would disappear without a word. 8 years later, he received a letter saying thank you, and that the woman had completed her master's degree in electrical engineering. Doohan puts it as, to me, the best thing I've ever done in my life, and still brings tears to my eyes every time I tell the story. Number 1. Armin Shimerman. Dominated by profit and the thirst for latinum, Quark reshaped the dynamic of what it meant to be a Ferengi. In real life, actor Armin Shimerman is almost a polar opposite, actively giving back wherever he can. One of the many causes Shimerman backs is the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. Wife and Deep Space Nine guest star Kitty Swink survived the disease, leading to the actor's ongoing fundraising. This is also something that actor, director and all-round great Trek person Jonathan Frakes has been involved with, as he lost his brother to the disease in 1997. Armin Shimerman also actively seeks donations for Doctors Without Borders, which looks to send medical practitioners out to countries where they are desperately required. The former Quark has been ardently collecting at conventions for years, often seen bucket in hand seeking donations. This also aligns with his position on the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, which helps pay medical bills for struggling actors. A teacher of Shakespeare at the USC School of Dramatic Arts, Professor Shimerman also covers this in his work at the Antaeus Theatre, where he has directed plays and continues to play an active role in the development of the organisation. And that concludes our list. If you think we missed someone, then please let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell so you never miss a Trek Culture video ever again. Also head over to Twitter and Instagram to follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with Trek Culture. I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to boldly go where no one has gone before.